across campus and around the world.
Your music.
Your sport.
Your news.
Your number one procrastination station.
12:51 a.m.
It's your Raw.
Good morning, Vietnam!
Thank you for that, Josh, and also thank you to Raw for this this wonderful civilized time in the morning. We really appreciate the airtime, guys. Say hello, Mike.
Hello, guys.
And Dan.
Hello, good to be back.
I'm Josh, by the way. James didn't introduce me because I was busy doing my Robin Williams impression, but I'm the same guy that I was last term.
We think.
We hope.
Just about.
We can only pray. Right, we're going to start off right away with the film reviews for the next 2 weeks. Tonight, Monday the 9th, week one. It's week one. It's the start of week. First of all, guys, how was your Christmas? Let's just get that out of the way.
Yeah, great. Didn't get up to all the boring stuff. Not really stuff worth putting on air. But how about you guys?
Thanks for that, Mike.
Because we've only
Dan, did you have anything worth sharing?
It's pretty merry. It's a good time. Specifics? Oh no, no. But it was good. It was good. It was good. I hope.
Fair enough. Josh, save us.
Well, my Christmas was pretty much owned by Morrison's this year because obviously I work there and working in retail over Christmas. You may as well sign your life away. You work at a pub, don't you, James? You work with people as well.
Half my time was spent working at a pub and half my time was spent spending that money shopping. So essentially I was working Christmas just keeping the capitalist engine grinding along.
Well, that's it. And you really start to realise how fundamentally stupid the human race is. I mean, we're the dominant species on the planet, and we can't sort of civilizedly sort of take a beer from a stack of beer bottles. We have to pick the bottom one and balls up the presentation that people like me spend half an hour doing. You don't care, do you, people? You don't care.
Dolphins never have to work in a shop. They just swim around.
I'm actually wondering what the new show's going to be like, because this is
this is a new, cynical, people-hating close-up.
Anyway, first off, tonight, Real Steel. None of us have seen it. It's got reasonably good reviews. Hugh Jackman stars as an ex-boxing champion set in the future, where robots box each other. It's essentially been advertised, despite all visual evidence the country as not Transformers. But if you've seen the trailers, it looks a little bit like Transformers.
It looks like that episode of Futurama where Bender becomes a robot wrestler, but without the funniness or cleverness.
What do you call the game where robots, you hit the wee sticks at the end?
Rock'em Sock'em.
Oh,
it looks like Rock'em Sock'em Robots.
They're in
the movie,
every 90s film.
Yeah, it looks like Rock'em Sock'em Robots, the movie.
Anyway, tomorrow, 2001: A Space Odyssey, slight departure from Real Steel.
We have all seen this film, I believe.
Apart from me, I've not seen it. That is a part of my life that I will need to correct tomorrow night. Guys, just a quick word on 2001. Dissertations have been written on this film, directed by Stanley Kubrick, about the dawn of man and evolution. What can you tell us? Can anyone give us a brief synopsis?
There's no real synopsis you can give this film. It begins with the dawn of man, and it's more of an evolutionary.
It ends with the birth of a new species, is that right?
It does. It's open to interpretation.
Well, I think Kubrick and Arthur C. Clarke, the writer, have been quoted as saying if you understand or find a through line thematically, then they failed as writers or something along those lines. So that gives you a clue as to how ambitious in one sense and jumbled in a different sense the whole film is. But it's definitely interesting, isn't it? I mean, it's one of those films you need to see at least once.
It's not really a visceral film. It's not one where you'll go and you will be wowed by it, surely, but it's not one which is gonna instantly smack you around the face. This is, it's more of a.
It's not Transformers.
It's not 2.5 hours long, though, isn't it? 2.5 hours long.
It's an epic.
So you need a very long one. Need to put the kettle on a couple of times.
Right, Wednesday.
Definitely worth watching.
Wednesday,
tomorrow.
No film. Wednesday, the 11th. There's no film. There's no film on any of the Wednesdays this week. The projectionists, the ushers get a little bit of a break in the student cinema every Wednesday. I'd love to know what they do on Wednesdays at that time. If any of them could email in at
studio@radio.warwick.ac.uk. I assume they have lives, and like, of course, they do, regular things that
people things.
People things. Eat, drink, function in regular society. But that's just a guess. I don't know. I could be way off the mark here.
Down the pub.
By the way, if anybody is listening at all at this time in the morning, please email in. Let us know who you are, why you're up at radio. Warwick. Josh, what's our email?
It's studio@radio.warwick.ac.uk. If you're up, why? Why aren't you in bed or at a lecture?
Because we're not certainly giving you anything here. There's certainly nothing to keep you awake on here.
I've never said the studio email address. That is why Josh is here. Inherently, that's his purpose. Right. Thursday, the 12th, Cowboys and Aliens. We reviewed this last term. I don't think you guys really liked it. It was Dan and Mike.
No.
Dan, Mike, and Josh. Dan, first of all, just a quick word on Cowboys and Aliens.
Awful.
But bear in mind it is 9 AM and we've got to follow Ofcom regulations, so choose your one word.
Yeah, so I was thinking, I mean, it's bad. We talked about it last term. It doesn't work. It's just don't bother. If you were foolish enough to go watch it last term, do yourself a favor and just ignore it this term and tell everyone else to ignore it. It's a pile of not very good things.
Mike, a few words from you on Cowboys and Aliens.
Well, not worth a punt, I'd say. It's just, and disclaimer, I wrote the review for this in the Warwick Student Cinema booklet.
I think it was
Please
more like a
ignore that
description,
review.
wasn't it, Mike?
I more or less had to kind of focus on the positives in that review, but please do not take that at face value. Please don't watch the film on the basis of this quote review unquote, and then see me in the street and punch me in the face.
Of course, it is a Jon Favreau film. That's a bit of a fall from the original Iron Man. I suppose Iron Man 2 is a bit of a mess, so that is a downward trajectory there. Right, Friday the 13th. That's a bit ominous, isn't it? It's Rise of the Planet of the Apes. Mike, can you give me a brief synopsis?
I think Dan will actually be the expert here.
Okay, yep, I can give you a synopsis on that one. Okay, Rise of the Planet of the Apes, obviously a prequel to Planet of the Apes, hence the title. It basically follows a scientist played by James Franco who works in I think he's trying to develop a cure for Alzheimer's because his father is a sufferer. They work with chimps and monkeys in order to, try and develop the cure, and he ends up adopting a ape called Caesar. Brings it home, lives with it for a couple of years, but then eventually a situation escalates. Caesar has to be brought into captivity. Problem is, though, Caesar is incredibly clever because he was subjected to this cure that James Franco was working on, heightens your awareness and your intelligence. Sorry about that. Caesar becomes incredibly clever and begins to realize that there's no reason why monkeys shouldn't be getting one over us, and starts to develop an uprising that will obviously, if you've seen Planet of the Apes, leads to the monkeys dominating humans and apes becoming our rulers. So that's in a nutshell. That would be Rise the synopsis. And I think it's an excellent film, I have to say.
The main plot with the monkey is fantastic. I mean, Andy Serkis. Why have they not made an Oscar category for him yet? He needs an Oscar of some kind.
Oh, it's a phenomenal performance, and the motion capture and the CGI in it is I think Weta, who did Avatar. Did the CGI and the effects. It's unbelievable. The likeness of the creatures and the apes in the film is phenomenal. But also, it's a really tightly told science fiction story. The script is extremely intelligent. It flows really, it flows at a nice clip as well. I think the director is Rupert Wyatt, who's a second-time British director, and this is his first big Hollywood film. He keeps he develops the characters, keeps the story moving, but the action is really economical but effective and tense. I just thought it was an excellent blockbuster. Yeah, smart, also entertaining.
For me, it fell down with the human relationships. James Franco and
Frida Pinto, who is dreadful. She's absolutely dreadful in the film.
It's so bland. It's so Korma, Coldplay, Snow Patrol. It's unnecessary. It's arbitrary.
It does feel like it was strong armed in there, but just to have a bit like the standard kind of human romance. James Franco's okay in the film. I think he's fine. Not his best work, but he's perfectly ample as the the scientist who kind of works out that maybe what they're doing on the apes isn't right, and it's got that nice sort of message about not testing on animals and all that kind of stuff. And I think he's decent, but I think the actress who lets aside down is Frida Pinto. She's awful. She is all kinds of
badly miscast. Miscast.
I think I'm going to hand you over to Josh for our first song of the day.
Yeah, this song it's arguably topical at the minute. It's Noel Gallagher. It's called If I Had a Gun. So enjoy this wonderful, wonderful song.
12:51 a.m.
12:51 a.m. 12:51 a.m.
I love Raw.
After we've finished the reviews on this section of the show, we're going to be talking about our favourite films of the year. If you have any favourite films, you're listening in at this time in the morning, you feel that this is the appropriate time in the morning to give us your favourite films, please email in at studio@radio.warwick.ac.uk.
Or even just review what films did you love, what films did you hate, general, what were you excited about, favourite scene.
Yeah, Mike, what did you hate? Yeah, that's cynical, isn't it, at this time in the morning? There's no place for cynicism at this time in the morning.
Well,
we are a happy show.
To be honest, it's the first time back. We're all pretty optimistic, aren't we?
We are. The term has not yet crushed our souls. I think that's the thing to say.
Although I speak on behalf of any film and literature students listening that this Modes essay has already got us demoralised, and will probably have us demoralised for quite some time. Anyway, back to James.
Right, into some lightweight, feathery stuff here. Terrence Malick, The Tree of Life. I think Josh and I have seen The Tree of Life. Just a brief history of Terrence Malick. Acclaimed director in the throughout the 70s, made his first film in 73, Badlands. Absolutely wonderful film starring Martin Sheen and Sissy Spacek. Partly inspired by the Starkweather homicides. It's a tale of a man, essentially a very young man, almost a boy, and his very young girlfriend embark on a killing spree across Nebraska, across the Badlands. It's unbelievably poetic, it's unbelievably poignant, and it's a beautiful film, and it earned Terrence Malick a lot of critical acclaim. The second film in 78, Days of Heaven, starring Richard Gere. If you don't believe Richard Gere can act, watch Days of Heaven. It's absolutely brilliant. Now, this, a fantastic two films for Terrence Malick, fantastic first two films, a lot of spotlight and a lot of pressure. Disappeared for 20 years. He's worked as a professor of philosophy, I believe. Didn't make a film. Nobody knew anything about him. People wondered whether he'd ever come back to cinema. In 1998, came back with one of the most fantastic casts ever assembled. George Clooney, Sean Penn, Woody Harrelson. Just an amazing cast. Adrian Brody, all these up and coming actors, all these star cast in a World War II film set in the Pacific, set in Japan. Absolutely incredible film, enormous. And then we've got 2006. We've got The New World, starring Colin Farrell and Christian Bale. Again, a brilliant film. Now, all of his films have sort of unifying themes. They're all about people. They're all about the human race, about the connectivity. Water is used as symbolism to show how people are connected. The Thin Red Line. There's absolutely amazing battle scenes where there's creatures shot in between these scenes, just little snippets, snails and squirrels. Just some of them being murdered and hurt by this destruction that man wrought. At the same time, nature just living on. Just showing basically just the ridiculousness and the surreality of war, which is kind of interesting if we want to think about Apocalypse Now, which we'll be reviewing later on in the show. Now, the Tree of Life is Terrence Malick's most abstract film. We follow a very traditional Midwestern family. Brad Pitt and Jessica Chastain star as the two parents of the children. We follow the children growing up. We follow them in their lives, and this is a very this is shot. All Terrence Malick's films are shot in the magic hour, which, funny enough, is the hour Michael Bay shoots in, the hour just before sunset, the hour when everything looks pretty, the orange glows. This is very much an idyllic view of childhood.
Sorry, Josh just looks a bit disgusted that you've compared Terrence Malick to Michael Bay.
I've not compared him. I've just said that they both shoot at the same time.
You mention them in the same breath. You're dead to me, James.
Hostility.
Right, now the film starts with it's difficult to say because the film is so chronologically confused, I think is a good word. The film starts with Brad Pitt's character, the father, getting news of his son being killed in an unnamed war, but at the time it's set, we assume it's the Vietnam War. The film then leaps into a sort of a 20 to 30 minute segment detailing the Big Bang, the explosion of the universe. Absolutely fantastic CGI before coming back to the kids as children. Now, the first thing I want to say about this film is I don't think it's Terrence Malick's best work. I think Terrence Malick's, for me personally, my favourite Terrence Malick film is The Thin Red Line. I think that is the combination of narrative and his abstract shooting directorial style that links those two things thematically. I think there's a much stronger message when you don't show what you're talking about explicitly, and in The Tree of Life, Terrence Malick very much tries to do that. He's showing how the macro, the universe itself, and such a small family can both be connected in the same way, and how they each have their effects on each other. I think that's a very interesting premise. It's a very ambitious film. I don't think it quite succeeds. There are dinosaurs in it as well. There are dinosaurs in it. It's a very difficult film to talk about in this short amount of time. Again, as we said about 2001, dissertations could be written on it. I don't think it remains Terrence Malick's best film. I think a lot of people will go and find it frustrating. I think a lot of people will go and find it boring. For me, definitely the best part of the film is the last 5 minutes, which it always is with a Terrence Malick film, plus the 20 to 30 minute segment that, quite frankly, could easily feature just as an IMAX feature in a science museum somewhere. It's that spectacular. Again, the performances I think are really good. Brad Pitt in particular is fantastic as the dad who has to combine, the ideas, the carrot and the stick. He has to combine the ideas of being loving to his children, but at the same time showing, that there are laws in the human world, and there are boundaries in nature that they mustn't cross. Jessica Chastain, has got some fantastic roles this year. She's an up-and-coming actress. This is sort of her breakout role. I think, again, she is very good as the housewife that tries to provide the grace to his nature as the film so sets out. The children, I have to say, have been shot in some... I think Terrence Malick, although he's never worked with children before... Well, he has worked with children before. He works with children in the Days of Heaven. I'm talking complete rubbish. But the way he works with them, the way he gets them to act, so naturalistically on screen, the way he shoots them, the way he just shoots children playing and decides out of hundreds of hours of footage to cut it into the film. It is absolutely spectacular, and it does trump the child actor in Super 8. Just the way that how naturalistic these children are, they come across really brilliantly. Again, very difficult to talk about. It's not Terrence Malick's best film, but it is well worth going to see.
Definitely one for the big screen then.
Yeah. I think you've covered all bases there. And I'm not an aficionado like you are with Terrence Malick. I went in sort of semi-unsure as to what to expect. And I think unless you understand the themes of Malick films and you sort of know what it's about, you're gonna be confused and angry and resentful. I've never seen a walkout in a film before, but I counted about 12 in The Tree of Life, which is a little bit harsh, but it's by no means a film for everyone. If you appreciate filmmaking and philosophical films, then The Tree of James is... What are you doing, James? I'm sorry, everyone. You can't see this.
My chair's broken, and I've had to stack up a load of chairs that don't swivel, and they've just suddenly collapsed on me.
Okay, well, you sort that out, and I'll sort of wrap up Tree of Life and go on to the next film. The next film on Monday the 16th is Warrior, starring Tom Hardy and...
Joel Edgerton.
That's the guy, exactly. I haven't seen it. Have any of you guys seen it?
No, I haven't seen it, but I heard pretty good things.
Empire gave it 5 stars and adored it. Total Film gave it 3, said it was average. It looks sub
the Fighter.
Sport, yeah. The Fighter worked because it was so subversive and sort of anarchic.
I wouldn't want to come out be a sports movie and come out the year after The Fighter. So I think that's not a great...
It doesn't look anything special, but I'm intrigued by it. It's gotten good press.
But yeah, I'm sure it's perfectly decent. Yeah. And I believe also it's it's free.
It's the Monday free event. So
no excuses.
I'd say check it out.
Yeah, give it a bash.
We will.
The following day, as James alluded to earlier on, is Apocalypse Now, which we've all seen. And who wants to take this one? Anybody want to begin with Apocalypse Now? Dan?
Well, it's I'll say a few things. Apocalypse Now, obviously, what can you say about Apocalypse Now? It's generally considered one of the best American films of all time, directed by Francis Ford Coppola, and it's probably one of the most harrowing war movies I would say ever put on.
Just a brief history about the origins of Apocalypse Now. Josh just did the thing where he said, "Oh, James is going to go off again," but I think it is important. He's got an itchy eye. The original, the novel Apocalypse Now is based on Joseph Conrad's Heart of Darkness, written in 1899, considered the first real, the first real postmodern novel. The 20th century, we had the birth of the postmodern novel. Heart of Darkness, the original novel, is about a man from a company trying to find a company director going into this river, a journey into his soul. More than anything, a journey down this dark native river where he discovers things about himself. He discovers things about the human race. Fast forward to Apocalypse Now. Francis Ford Coppola combines that element of journeying down a river into your soul with the Vietnam War, and it stars Martin Sheen as Captain Willard, who has to go down the river and find Colonel Kurtz, a colonel that's gone renegade, a colonel that's gone AWOL. Now, the film is abstract. It is abstract in its nature. It's very clear with the visual metaphor of going down a river, going down into your soul, going down into the heart of darkness. Martin Sheen's character, Captain Willard, finds things about himself. It's really it's a journey of self-discovery. It's very difficult to put into, again with A Tree of Life, it's very difficult to put in very simple terms because it's not a simple film. It's a film with many layers. It's a film with many different themes. It does contain a fantastic performance from Martin Sheen as Captain Willard, and it contains an absolutely fantastic performance from Marlon Brando as Colonel Kurtz, who, depending on which version of the film it is, because there are several versions of the films that Francis Ford Coppola went back and recut, has about half an hour at the end where Colonel Kurtz, Marlon Brando, gives these rambling speeches about the nature of man, about what he represents, about anarchy. And they're all shot in very, very shallow light because Marlon Brando turned up to the shoot supposed to be fit like a soldier, supposed to have read the book, hadn't read the book and turned up ridiculously overweight. He's shot very much in darkness. He gives a sort of a rambling, disinterested performance, but in the way that only Marlon Brando can. Just listening to his voice is, it's incredible. He gives a brilliant performance. He really captures the darkness of the character, the rambling nature of human man, the madness inherent within man. Dan, what do you think of the film?
Well, it deserves its status as one of as a classic. I just think that's you've covered a lot of things beautifully there. I'd also say it's a beautifully made film. If you want to really get a taste, a film that really places you in the horror of that war and of that the mindset that must have enveloped people who took part in it. Apocalypse Now is a great film. It's beautifully put together, and the environments are really, really, really striking. So I think it's also playing in print. I think that they've got an original print of it. I believe so, and I think if you're that's a great opportunity to see it because it is a really, even from a visual, all those things James says are correct, but even from a visual aesthetic level, it's a really powerful piece of work.
I think it's one of the most purely cinematic films ever made. It's pure cinema. It's so iconic. It's so ingrained in pop culture and just general culture that you'd be a fool to miss it in its original print on the big screen.
I think
if you don't see this, we'll hunt you down and slap you. That is a promise.
Josh, I think we may have just lost the listenership that we've got at 9 o'clock in the morning.
I think we may have done. I mean, if you want a companion piece, the Thin Red Line, just with the surrealty of War of Apocalypse Now, there are some really surreal images in there. My radio colleague Josh has just mentioned that we possibly should play another song. Would you like to introduce it, sir?
I would like to, but I think Michael would like to even more. Michael, please take this one away.
We've had 4 shows. This is our 4th show. We've played this in 3 now, but as every time it's on this on the playlist, we'll be playing it because it is incredible. I'm not sick of it. It's the Black Keys with Lonely Boy.
12:51 a.m.
12:51 a.m. 12:51 a.m.
I love Raw.
Of course, we have played that 3 times out of our 4 shows because most modern music is horrible and at best apocalyptically average. Right, 30 minutes or less. I believe Josh is the person to get us off on this one.
30 minutes or less. There's so little to say about this film. Basically, Jesse Eisenberg plays a pizza delivery boy in... Is the town named?
No, I don't think so.
In sort of USAville somewhere. And their policy is they will deliver in 30 minutes or less or your money back. So these budding bank robbers who need some money for some arbitrary, undisclosed reason. I've forgotten what the reason is.
Actually, the reason is they're going to open up it is a sauna. It is some sort of bizarre brothel. It's like a gimmicky brothel.
Well, it's Danny McBride, so it's typical Danny McBride tomfoolery. So they think, we'll strap a bomb to somebody and make him rob the bank. Because to avoid
so to keep the tracks clean, clean.
Genius plan. So they order a pizza. They see the trailer for the 30 minutes or less pizza company. Order a pizza. Jesse Eisenberg delivers it. They knock him out, put a bomb on him, and make him rob the bank. And then hilarious capers ensue. I think as a sub-Cohen caffeine shot, it was a good laugh. It was decent. Eisenberg is always good value, but he's wearing a bit thin now. He needs I think more strings to his bows. His right hand man,
Aziz Ansari, who's he's an American comic. He's phenomenal. He's really actually is really funny, and the level of energy he exudes in every film.
He cropped up in season 8 and maybe season 9 of Scrubs, but I didn't watch season 9, so I wouldn't know. And he was very funny in that, but he was written out, which was quite unfortunate. But he's got a lot of energy. He's very offbeat. He's very zingy. He's a good laugh. Danny McBride again. He's very Marmite. You'd love him or hate him. I think he's funny. apart from in Your Highness, which was an abomination of a
Well, I think
film.
the thing with Danny McBride is you got to be very careful with him. Your Highness, which was a bad film, makes Danny McBride the hero. I think Danny McBride is a naturally funny guy, but I also think Danny McBride also comes across as a bit of a, not a very. He's not someone you like. He's funny when he's playing the bad guy, and in 30 minutes or less, he plays a complete sleazebag, which is perfect for Danny McBride. I
mean, there's the double act of the heroes and the double act of the villains, and they're both. It's two good double acts for money. The thing is, it's really lightweight, but at the same time, the subject matter is fundamentally very dark. And I think I read somewhere that it was either inspired by or very similar to a similar event.
They were accused. The filmmakers were accused. There was an event where something similar happened to a fellow where he had a bomb strapped to him, was forced to rob a bank. The filmmakers actually, in August, when they were accused of having taken the idea from that obviously rather tragic real life incident, they denied it. But I think the links are a wee bit too.
Yeah, it's a good laugh. It's a good black comedy, but it's there's like a nastiness.
One watch wonder.
Yeah.
Oh, you wouldn't want to watch it more than once. But there's a couple of laughs, and I think it's only 75 minutes as well. So
yeah,
very, very quick.
You're not gonna. It's not like Van Helsing where you watch it and think, "I want those hours of my life back. I died a bit inside." It's not like that. It's a good laugh.
If you got a free night, then
if you got a free night and Burn After Reading is not on TV, watch 30 minutes or less. But that's that. Yeah.
Van Helsing, if it's on Channel 5, is a guilty pleasure. It's
really.
I like. No. I actually kind of like. I was going to say something. I like Van Helsing as well.
I would rather. I would rather
do something bad.
I'm not even going to justify that comment with a response.
Moving on.
Right, on to slightly heavier stuff. The British behemoth, Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy. Mike, would you like to start us off on this one? Just a brief synopsis of the plot.
Oh my word! I don't think I can give a brief synopsis of a plot. I'm still confused about the film when I saw it in the cinema the first time. I went in based on the rave reviews it was got. I was unfamiliar with the novel and with the TV series of the 1980s. Went in there, and it's very confusing if you've heard nothing of it before. Did anyone else find this? You can still appreciate it. It is a masterpiece in film production. It is so well made, so beautifully crafted. It's a crime film, but it's not a thriller. It's more of a subtle.
Yeah, it's very slowly paced and methodical, but it's so gripping.
It's based on a book by John le Carre, isn't it? And he traditionally, his stories are these. It's kind of like he's like the anti-Bond. He writes these really slow spy stories that are, it's all about the intricate part of the espionage. There's no fast cars, there's no Eva Green types wandering around. It is these middle-aged men sitting around these tables, slowly psychologically breaking each other down. It's the reality of what that must be like.
Well, Le Carre, supposedly there is debate as to what level he worked at. He worked in MI5, MI5, MI6, the combination of the two. And you're right, it very much is the antithesis to the Bond series, very much also the antithesis to the Bourne series, which is always seen as the really realistic world of spies and espionage. It very much is the enemy in the room. The enemy set during the time of the Cold War. I mean, I don't think any of us have the age we are, have any sort of grasp of just the
paranoia,
Reds under the bed, the paranoia, the fear that there could be Russians everywhere. And it very much is old men from Eton deciding the fate of the country, deciding nuclear secrets. It's a film about egos as much as anything.
Should attempt the synopsis. I think the synopsis is set in the Cold War, and basically there's a mole. They believe there is a mole has gotten into MI6, so they bring out of retirement this one of their
George Smiley,
one of their most
Mr. Gary Oldman,
respected, I think, successful previous. Bring him out of retirement to try and work out who this mole is, and then the film unwinds through a series of other characters, bringing them all together, kind of globetrotting, and we work out who the mole inside MI6 is, and that's Gary Oldman, or George Smiley, played by Gary Oldman, is tasked with doing that. I think that would be the best.
And Gary Oldman is just, if he does not get his Oscar, which James was saying that in America the reviews were lukewarm, is that right? Or
yeah, it came out here in I think we got it uncharacteristically a couple of months earlier. I think it came out here in September, just before we came to uni, and the reviews were absolutely the rave reviews.
Rightly so.
Then it opened in the States during December there. The American critics seem to have been really polarised by it, really mixed reviews. And if you actually look at the nominations for the Golden Globes, it's been very underserved, given how how strong the reviews were here.
I think there's possibly several reasons why it probably won't be Oscar fair. The first one is I think it probably came out too early. I know that sounds strange because it only came out sort of a couple of months ago for us. But really, if you want to make a film that very much is within Oscar territory, you're releasing it almost now, aren't you? You're releasing it, just very late in December, very early in January. I think that possibly a backlash from American critics about the fact that we've had it 2 months earlier, because usually it's the other way around. Although, probably not probably not something conscious, but you very much feel that maybe the bandwagon has sailed, and they've missed it, and everything to say about the film has been said. For me personally, I think it's a great film. I got the sense of going in, obviously it has massively high expectations, and coming out not quite feeling that the film had met those expectations, and wondering whether that was perhaps the hype or whether that was the quality of the film.
I think it's a very... love it or hate it, it is a film to admire at the very least.
Definitely. The reason I loved it was because it's a film full of these beautiful small moments. Like there's a bit where Tom Hardy he resurfaces from years of hiding and explains where he's been, and that is just absolutely
Tom Hardy again is fantastic.
He makes the hairs on the back of your neck stand up, and there's a bit with Benedict Cumberbatch where his character, there's a revelation about his home life, which is just so beautifully done. It's heartbreaking. And the end when George Smiley, the kind of climax for his character, he raises his voice. He's a very sort of monotone man, very placid, laid back, and there's a bit where he raises his voice, and that is just...
It's devastating.
It's bizarrely effective, and it's just those little moments,
it's not
little
even
character
loud.
touches. That is why the film for me is one of my favourite of the year. It's
just because we need to be moving on. I think I'd say definitely go and see it. You may not be as impressed on first viewing if you haven't seen it before and you have heard all the hype, but this is a film which definitely will bed well over repeated viewings.
I think for me, I think you can hit the nail on the head there, Mike, and that a lot of people, including me, I'm much more the sort of person that admires the film rather than loves it. I still think it's very much worth going to see. I think you very much should see it. We have on Saturday the 21st at midnight, the midnight showing Don't Be Afraid of the Dark, which I don't believe any of us seen. Horror film.
I'm not familiar with this.
I know that Tom Cruise took the ankle tag off Katie Holmes and allowed her to make the film.
Just a quick disclaimer: there is no solid evidence that Tom Cruise can
no solid evidence, but it's pretty.
We all
much
know it's
It's produced and written by Guillermo del Toro. He produced and wrote it.
Fantastic.
Comic book artist, I think, actually directed it.
Yeah.
I think Guy Pearce is in it too. I mean, it sounds like it's an interesting pedigree for a film.
I mean, Katie Holmes, I never disliked her when she acted. I didn't think she was bad in Batman Begins, and there were a couple of reasons why she was worth watching in The Gift. I don't know if you guys have seen that.
No, but I can imagine.
No.
This has very much got to the stage of old men leering at women at 9 o'clock in the morning.
Can't beat some early morning misogyny. I that was a joke, may have been misplaced. I apologise to any listeners who may have been offended by that.
You can beat some early morning misogyny with some quality film reviews.
We'll counter that misogyny with our review of Bridesmaids, the Sunday 22nd of January film, which is written by females. It's pretty much an all-female cast. Guys, take it away, anybody.
It was written...
Kristen Wiig.
It was written... directed by
Paul Feig, written by
Feig.
Kristen Wiig.
Very talented lady.
Yes.
Kristen Wiig, or Kristen Wiig, if you're going to believe the double I's. But it's another romantic comedy in, the same mould as, I'd say... It's Judd Apatow produced.
Judd Apatow
I
produced.
believe.
It shows, doesn't it? It really
does show.
With the really beefy running time, excess of 2 hours, which all his films pretty much are. I don't know. Judd Apatow, he makes good films, but he inspires this self-indulgence and like a refusal to edit. Like with Bridesmaids, there's a spiky, gross-out comedy, which is very funny, and the much sweet, which I think that there's like a love story, which I think is well done. It's cliched and formulaic, but I think it's well done. And that whole self-discovery thing with the main character, those two films, there's the transition between the two. It's kind of jarring, the difference between the two of them, and that was a bit of an obstacle for me. It padded it out for needless lengths, I think.
Just quickly for synopsis as well. It's about a friend. It's about a group of women. One of them's getting married, and the preparations for the bridesmaids, the rivalries between them, especially these two ladies. One Kristen Wiig, the other one
Rose Byrne plays the other. I can't remember the character name though.
No, I think it's Helen. Maybe? Helen, yeah. Definitely, it's definitely one of the funniest romantic comedies to come out in recent years. It is absolutely hilarious. Definitely worth a look if you're into this kind of thing, and even if you're not, it is a very, very funny film. Definitely worth a look.
It's been it's been bandied about in the phrase, the female hangover now.
Yeah.
Do you think that's justified, or is that
it's better?
I resent that. I don't know.
I think it's actually. I thought it was. I quite liked it. I think it's quite a funny film.
I'm talking less about perhaps if it's good enough, or whether that is. Do you think that's actually people praising the film? Do you think that's people saying, well, the female comedy is unoriginal, or?
Well, I think it's just they're so rare. The problem is if when anything like this comes out, they're just the word the female hanger. It doesn't really make sense, or they don't really stack up together when you think about it. But it's jargon. Like it's just because female comedies with all female cast with female writers, it doesn't happen very often.
That was the main USP, wasn't it?
That seems to be the big thing they've played on. I mean, the film was made. I think I was listening. It's made over nearly $500 million worldwide.
It doesn't deserve to be saddled in with anything. I think it's earned its own status.
And I think the whole gender thing was way out of proportion. I mean, there's a whole wave of really funny American female comedians and British female comedians at the minute. I mean, Kristen Wiig, Tina Fey from 30 Rock, she's fantastic. And I think gender is a moot point. It's a very funny film with some very talented characters, very good dialogue, very good acting, very good writing. Go and see it. It's a good laugh.
Definitely, yeah. There is, unfortunately, you have to crowbar a romantic plot in, which does feel very forced. It's predictable, but definitely full of the laughs. One to check out.
Right, one last song before we're going to do our film of the year, everybody's film of the year. If you do have a film of the year and you are up at this listening at this time in the morning, you don't have a lecture, please email in at studio@radio.warwick.ac.uk. We have Bombay Bicycle Club with Leave It.
Raw talent, raw inspiration, raw edge.
12:51 a.m. It's Fit As.
It's come to the time of the show that none of you are waiting for. Your favourite film of the year. We've not had any emails, presumably because no one's listening or nobody cares.
Wake up, guys.
We can assume that there's been so many emails that the server cannot handle the sheer volume of fan mail. That's what I'm going to rest easy on.
The server has crashed. They've jammed up the pipe with our listeners. The first thing I'll say is I don't think I've seen enough films this year to justify a film of the year. I've not seen Drive. I've not seen plenty of these films. I'd say True Grit on this list. I think was a great film, Coen Brothers film. I thought Jeff Bridges was brilliant in that. Really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed Good Western. I thought that was a great way to start the year in terms of film. I'm gonna have to go with The Tree of Life. Although it's not the best Terrence Malick film, I think very much if you're a fan of Terrence Malick, there's a lot there for you. If you're not a fan of Terrence Malick, you're not in sort of I want to say the zone of that kind of film, that kind of abstract film. I don't think it's the film to start you off on Terrence Malick. I think you should see some of his earlier work first. I'm going to hand it over to Mike for his film of the year.
Well, again, like James, I haven't seen a lot of these acclaimed films of this year. I haven't seen Drive, Black Swan, etc. But out of the ones I have seen, it has been a great year for film. I think we'll all agree on that. Fantastic. I think I'll have to go with I was really impressed by 127 Hours. I have to. I think that's been really overlooked in the end of year lists. I think James.
Can I just ask who wrote Harry Potter on this list of great films of the year?
I was doing the biggest.
Harry Potter
films
was pretty
of the year.
good. Harry Potter wasn't bad.
I was going to say, that was
awful.
put forth in Empire's top 10. That is ridiculous.
There are words I would say in response to that, but again, Ofcom regulations, I can't say them on there.
Sorry, Josh, no one's listening.
It is like, I mean, they put it above Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy.
Ball hooks.
I mean,
absolute ball hooks.
But no, I think 127 Hours. Also,
spectacular.
Leading on to Josh, I think Submarine, but I think he's going to...
Well, I think for me, this was the year of, I think the British made some fantastic films. I'm going to ignore the King's Speech for sheer backlash because I resent the amount of attention it got Oscar. But I think in terms of British, not British made films, British starring films, British written, British feeling films, 127 Hours, as I said, is fantastic. Harry Potter arguably was it was a nice end to the series. It wasn't perfect.
One of the strongest
It's nice
films.
that it ended.
Yeah. Tinker Tailor obviously was, I think, close to a masterpiece. But for me, the British indies, Submarine, as Michael said, Richard Ayoade's cinematic debut was just so emotive, so poignant, so sweet, bittersweet.
So
it was so well acted, well written. It's not original. It's a very French New Wavy, very sub Wes Anderson. But I just thought it was the perfect romantic. It was really realistic, really emotional, really raw and honest. I thought that was so underlooked this year. It's sick, overlooked this year rather. It sickens me. But that my favourite film of the year was in fact Kill List. By Ben Wheatley. It was his follow-up to Down Terrace, which I haven't seen myself. If anybody has seen it, let me borrow it because I want to see it now. Kill List. It's all things to all men. It starts off as like a sort of coming out of retirement for one last job sort of film with this disgraced ex-soldier coming out of retirement to do one final. James yawned.
James yawn.
Nice one. It's ironic, James, that you would yawn, Mr. 5-10 minute rant about Terrence Malick, man. You've not earned the right to yawn at me this radio show, James, with your judgmental eyes and your bed hair. But yeah, Kill List, it starts off as a crime movie, and then it takes all kind of weird gothic turns, and it's something so intense and unsettling about the whole film. The way it's shot, the way it's scored, the way it's acted, it's so brutal and it's so magnificent. Watch it. I'm going to skirt over James. He doesn't deserve a say. And Dan, please tell us your favourite film of the year, or films as it goes.
I would have to go for, I think if I was going to pick one that stands out to me at the end is Drive, Nicholas Winding Refn's. It's kind of like a noir. It's also based on a novel. It's a very simple sort of film, but it's basically it's a crime film in which a man who is paid to drive for criminals to get them out of situations to ensure that they're not caught, played by Ryan Gosling, finds himself embroiled in this a scheme with crooks, and they want him dead because he knows too much. It's a really, really, really tightly done film. It's not complex at all from a screenplay or from storytelling perspective. It is really a point A to point B film, but it's done with such energy, style, and I'd say enthusiasm. It's committed to being as raw and gritty and visceral and exciting as it can, as possible. It's also directed. It's not got a very American flavour. It's got like a very different sensibility about it. It's directed by Nicholas Winding Refn, who I think is Danish, and you can really feel the sort of very European sensibility. And Ryan Gosling's excellent, making everyone go weak at the knees.
Yeah. I think he sort of pushes heterosexuality to the limit. There's something about the man that is just spectacular.
It's very complete as well. The film has a lovely kind of love arc in the middle. Unlike Planet of the Apes, it doesn't feel like it's been started. It feels really natural, like it belongs in the picture.
Carey Mulligan is just lovely.
And Carey Mulligan's lovely. Ryan Gosling's excellent. The action is really well done, and it feels like a complete film. It ends on a perfect note. It starts on a perfect note, and the middle is wall to wall, has you engaged. It really is a really strong genre picture.
I think just before we play you out with REM's Drive, see how we did that.
Clever people.
I'm going to leave you with a little thought. If somebody broadcasts a radio show and nobody's listening, does it make a sound?
It does, and it is the most phenomenal song REM.
Sounds a bit like this.
RIP 2011 made. Thank you so much for listening. We've been Close Up.
See you in 2 weeks, guys.
Yeah, thank you for listening. I mean, it's not the best slot, is it?
And welcome back to Warwick as well.
Yeah, welcome back, guys. We hope we scored your first Warwick morning with, niceness and enjoyable. I'm going to stop talking now because I'm getting delirious through lack of sleep. So
yeah, we're going back to bed.
See you in 2 weeks, guys. Enjoy.